Geeta. What hasn't been said about Geeta by other, better versed, better made, and more thought out videos by better people when it comes to talking about a champion of the region? You've heard it before. She's weak. She's worse than Diantha. Her team sucks. It's imbalanced. And as far as themes go, it's a stretch to say the least. But I'm here to put into your heads another perspective. One that I put to a poll, but surprisingly got an overwhelming vote count when it came to how people perceived her as a champion. Is she a Cynthia? Heavens no. But I'm going to at least give some potential reasons as to why Geeta is actually a good champion. Not in the regard of being a true threat or a final test, but instead as a bar for trainers to climb over, even if that bar is rather low compared to previous champions. Roll the intro!
Is there more to us than the words we say, the games we play? Can we know that we're not dreaming?
So, before we begin, please give everything I say in this video a grain of salt when it comes to believing it. I'm not saying she's good, I'm just saying she doesn't deserve all the hate she gets for being weak. I'll start off this video by saying when it comes to Geeta, her team is poorly designed. There's no going around it. There's no beating around the bush. It is pathetic to say the least. You've heard it before. Why are Go-Goat and Avalugg on a region champions team? They are not memorable, they are not good, and are just generally basic and boring as far as champion Pokemon are concerned. Geeta is also a champion that, to my knowledge, is the first to not use a pseudo-legend on their team. I might be wrong, and correct me if I am wrong in the comment section, but as far as champions go, not counting Alola because technically you are the champion and everyone else are just challengers, and I think also Blue from like Red and Blue, no other champion has not had a pseudo-legend or even any pseudo-legend on their team based on the generation/region they are in, with exception to Blue. Also, again, back to her team. She has poorly built her team up with two psychic types in the form of Espathra and Veluza. The last two team members, however, are probably her strongest and most misused team members in Kingambit and Glimmora. You've heard it before, I won't speak too long, but Kingambit is best used last, and Glimmora is best used first, just going on their abilities and not the reverse, which is how she uses them. In fact, I believe during my first battle, she actually sent Kingambit out second. Oh my goodness. Now, another thing I want to bring up about Geeta is the interactions certain NPCs have about her. How she is super controlling, hands-on, and is just a bit too bossy with how she runs gym challenges and controls how strong each of the gym leaders are. Some don't even have a lot of nice things to say about her, and despite her saying she is, quote-unquote, incapable of holding back in a Pokemon battle, she just feels like she's being held back because of her team. My personal experience, she was kind of a challenge, but that's only because of Espathra and its opportunist ability that caught me off guard. I like to set up my Pokemon with moves like Bulk Ups and Calm Minds, but seeing the Espathra's ability ruined my strategies and killed my team at that first time. After I got past it, the only problem I had was Kingambit, because I didn't know how it worked at the time. After that, I suffered no major problems against her once the shock factors were used up. I still had to rematch her because of those surprise factors, but again, after I learned Espathra's and Kingambit's tricks, they were not a threat anymore. So, after all that, you're probably thinking, why am I saying I'm going to give props to Geeta? If she's unanimously the weakest champion, has the worst team lineup, and is just generally not a good champion given her position as not only the champion, but also the chairwoman of the Pokemon League of Paldea, why would I make a video giving props to her? Because of very specific dialogues with Geeta, specifically during the battle, and especially her goal throughout the game, and finally, as well as her name. Now, hear me out. During the battle, when you face her, She continues to encourage you, even if you are either wailing on her or being wailed on. She says things like, "Don't let up now," and "That was a powerful move deserving of a standing ovation." She keeps on trying you to push you to surpass her. I think she knows that she's starting to wane in her skills as the new generations of trainers are rising up, and she just wants you to push yourself harder and harder to beat her. Now, next, her team. Yes, it sucks. I know it stinks. As far as a champions team goes, it is bad. It is, however, something a player might have during their run, with exception to maybe King Gambit, unless they knew how to evolve it. Because, guess what? You can actually find Glimmer's pre-evolved form, Glimmet, outside of the crater. But it is exceedingly rare. And it is based on Pokemon you might find on your own journey and use yourself on your own team. And yes, I'm going to say this right now, I used a Go-Goat on my team. So I was actually surprised to see her using a Go-Goat. Go! So let me get this straight. We have a Go-Goat fighting a Go-Goat. I'm like, whoa, champion's using a Go-Goat. I'm actually surprised. Now, is her team overpowered? No. Just flat out no. But it is something you still would have to think about on how to overcome if you know these Pokemon. Much like the interview, as annoyingly stupid as it was, it did make me think about how to get around these Pokemon, if even for a short time. No, I could not just spam my Go-Goat against the Avalugg. Yes, I might have to switch to a special attacker. Yes, I might have to risk my my Skeledirge into this fight. Might have to do this, might have to do that. Point is, I did have to think a little bit. Not much, but I still had to think about how to get around each individual Pokemon. Another fact I want to bring up, how the gym leaders and other people see her. Some, like Nemona, adore her, while the gym leaders resent her for how she is so controlling. But I have a reason for that. The reason the two closest gyms, Grass and Bug, are so easy to beat is similar to how I would approach Pokemon battles with my viewers. Against a new viewer who I've never fought before, I would send out some of my weakest built teams to gauge their individual strength. And if I ever face them again, I can use that knowledge to plan my teams in the future against them. If they are experienced veterans, they'll crush what I bring. But if they're like little Timmies who can only spam out like 6 legendaries to battle, then they will indeed struggle against even my weakest teams, simply because I know how to get around teams that are built solely on legends and have no real training involved. I can easily dismantle those kinds of teams. It's also why I don't use legends or even paradox Pokemon myself to an extent. It's to make it fair for everybody else. Experienced players like myself avoid legends, except for serious battles, like say on the ladder or for practicing for VGC. It's because we know how to take full advantage of those Pokemon, and we can turn them into unstoppable forces of nature. So, if you just let the gym leaders run free, they might make their gyms super hard potentially, and for first-time trainers or inexperienced battlers going on their first gym challenge, this might truly put them off wrong and cause them to not want to take on the gym challenges. So, a gradual climb in terms of strength is needed for gym leaders. Since this is our first region where you could go to the hardest gym first and the easiest last, you need to have a structure so trainers can gradually increase their strength. Of course, this all could have been avoided if Game Freak had just implemented a level scaling system, but that's neither here nor there. And as a final note, one thing that always struck me is the odd nickname or title that Geeta seems to be given, especially from Nemona and other trainers. She's called La Primera. After a Google Translate, it translates into the first. I don't know Spanish very much, so I'm not sure if this is an accurate translation. So if somebody does know Spanish and could actually translate La Primera for me and confirm whether or not it means the first or something else, I'm just going to keep going and think that it is. If it is true, this would explain why she is so weak. She is Paldea's first champion, or champion of champions. So she is probably the only bar Paldea has as far as strength is concerned regarding how strong a trainer is. Remember, any of the gym leaders or even the Elite Four could be strong, but since they're all focused on specific types, well, monotype teams are going to eventually run into a type they can't overcome. And remember, Geeta's team is basically what a normal trainer would have throughout their journey. You might have different types, but it is going to vary from trainer to trainer. But you would still encounter weird lineups, etc. Now, the only thing that goes against this idea of mine is her title, Champion of Champions, indicating she is supposed to be the strongest of all champions of the region, when clearly admitted by herself that she is not the strongest, saying how Nimona beat her even at her best and Nimona was holding back. Is Geeta a Cynthia? No, she is the weakest champion gameplay-wise, but in my opinion, she does have her reasons potentially for why she is so weak. She is not there trying to stay at the top, no. She is there in her mind as a placeholder, as someone people want to overcome and eventually surpass. She stands there only as long as she feels she has to stay there. And when she sees that she doesn't need to control everything so strictly or put up this image of being so strong, she will step down and let another shine. After all, as she tells her Glimora whenever it terrestrializes, she and her ace, Glimora, will be the light that guides all trainers in Paldea. Geeta and Glimora will not outshine the trainers of Paldea. They will guide them, shine the light, show them the way, so they will someday be outshined by the trainers of Paldea. But this is just my idea. Don't take what I say to heart. People are saying she's like the villain, and others are saying she's being controlled or something, and I just thought, with how many people have called her bad or weak, I just wanted to come up with a more positive reason as for why she's like that. What do you guys think? Is she just a weak champion trying to be more than what she really is, or is there a method to her reasoning? Tell me down below, and if you can, share the video so others can hear my opinion and they can, slap me around and tell me I'm bad and etc. I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye!
When you've reached the point where you can't go on, just come to me, you'll be safe from harm. If you trust in me, then I'll trust in you. There's nothing more that I need to do. If you put